And away we go.
Okay, it's episode 13, part 3. This should be probably our shortest segment.
We'll see.
We'll see. You never know. We do have a tendency to drift on a tangent.
It's a good
We're both here in blue spot on a red state, Texas.
Yeah.
And so we feel like we're kind of authorized, so to speak, to talk on the topic of gerrymandering.
Yeah.
So let me introduce it this way. Online, a lot of people like to give Texas a hard time. Oh, how could you guys vote this way? How could you allow that? Blah, blah, blah. And I try and explain that most of it comes down to various direct and indirect forms of gerrymandering. And to that point, they're doing it again as we speak. Texas only gets, the legislature only meets once every other year, but they're having a special session not to deal with the floods, not to deal with any of this real shit, but so they can do more redistricting so that Abbott artificially has his upper hand in place, maintained. Steve can explain exactly.
Right. And this doesn't only happen on the state level. This happens on the federal level, and this gerrymandering also happens in multiple states, including Texas, where the representatives that go up to Washington. So I think they're kind of working on both, because Trump is out there saying, "I need 5 more," and all this other shit, right? So. Yeah, so what are they going to do? Stop the goddamn like you said, we're going to go in for this, but not for all this other shit that when people actually need help. This is for them to get the upper hand, and this all goes back to the fact that Republicans can't win when they platform. First of all, they can't win in popular votes most of the time, right? Now, Trump winning this last election was an exception. I think it's dicey. I don't know if he won the popular vote, but hey, the evidence is dicey too, so we don't know what happened there. But one thing I do know, that there was possibly as many as 8 million Democrats who didn't vote somehow. Why did that happen? I don't know. But anyways, the point being, when you start to look at Republicans across the board, across the nation, and how through the Electoral College, how through the Senate. Getting 2 for each state, regardless of population, and then the redistricting that happens, in the congressional appointee or elected officials, you will see that it is grossly in favor of Republicans, as far as when you look at the overall numbers of people who vote for Democrats compared to people who vote for Republicans, and what the representation looks like in Washington. So it doesn't equate, it doesn't equal out. And gerrymandering is one of these ways they can get around, can do that by redistricting, and where a Democrat would have won if it was just a normal thing, when they just twist it all around. So they're like, oh, the Republican won because we put it all the way out here into the suburbs where, or whatever they're doing to make sure that their guy wins. And this happens all across the board, either on the state level and on the federal
level. And yes, it does happen some by Democrats as well. We're not saying that it's completely one-sided.
In retaliation.
But by and large, it's more of a Republican tactic.
Right. Once again, this is this false equivalence I'm always talking about with Democrats and Republicans. Well, Democrats do it too. Well, they are playing once again by rules they did not create. Did Democrats vote to have money into politics? No. That was Republicans. Now, Democrats have to get money into politics to even play the fucking game. So, yeah, they're doing the same thing Republicans do, only because they can't even play otherwise.
If they don't, yeah.
If they don't. So, you can't, Democrats never would have put this bullshit into place that is allowing this to happen. And if you really want to break it down, and you just approach people, right? And you explain to them what legislation does, how it acts, and you don't distort it, right? The way that and twist it the way that it will be presented by Republicans. They are vastly in favor of progressive, and let's just call it progressive issues, because Democrat doesn't, to me, some of these Democrats are just neoliberal Republicans of a decade ago. So let's just say progressive politics in general, across the board, nationwide. And I'm not talking about small little towns that have way more representation than they deserve, far exceed So if you ask people like, hey, are you for X, Y, and Z? Don't call it socialism or communism. They're like, yeah, I would love to have that. Or yeah, that works. Or yeah, I have that. My aunt had. Or yeah, or would you want to get rid of that? No, I don't. But somehow Republicans are able to convince people to vote against themselves somehow on all these issues they actually want, that they need and help them, So yeah, when you approach people in general, I think it's like, I know, these numbers are out there, but I would imagine it's probably around 60-70% of people agree with progressive policies, across the board, no matter what they are. Now, you might get like a 50-50 on some of these more issues that were involving like, gay marriage or something like that, but it's still like 60% probably approve of it.
Mm-hmm.
And those numbers are going up as people start to fucking expand their minds a bit. But yeah, no, these people have been lied to, they've been duped, they've been railroaded, and they're voting against themselves, and you combine that with the gerrymandering and everything else and the lies. Once again, this was a Republican thing that went through under Republican leadership of allowing, when the fairness doctrine was removed from, and then, you had Fox News was allowed to lie 24/7, 365 for decades to brainwash people. And the flip of this all is, once again, when the colonialist, when the narcissist colonizes the brain of an individual, right? And that's what they've done structurally in America. It inverts reality. So they'll tell you like you have Trump derangement syndrome. Like, no, you do. Everything this man is a verifiable, undeniable lie. Like, he lies all the time. Like Trump, university, buddy, Fox. 700 million. Everything is a lie. So when people say you have Trump derangement syndrome, they're the ones with Trump derangement syndrome. You see, like,
because they're willing to
they're
believe
living,
anything.
They're in
and
the
everything
inverted
that he says,
reality of the narcissist's false sense, their false reality. So yeah, it's for people that are thinking outside of this and can recognize it. It's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing. It's like,
and for anybody who says, "Why would you be obsessed about this guy?"
Because he's affecting everyone.
Because I don't care who was in that office. If he or she was the president of the United States, they have the ability to improve and or fuck up your lives incredibly. It's
right.
I mean, that's why you should care.
Right. It's like saying, hey, if you're in a family, do you care if your dad is a psychopath? Yeah, because it affects the whole family.
Right. It's very good analogy. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, and this all goes back to this system that we've created. Most of these people have lived with psychopathic fathers, who have lived with these patriarchs and these, this religious stuff, and this is kind of normal for them because they've been in a trauma bond since day one. So yeah, they're going to believe inverted, twisted realities. It's normal for them because they can't get out of it, So yeah, I don't know.
Well, just on that last point, it's what annoys me is when you can see on their face or hear in their voice that they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to think about it. It's not that they've created some weird logic around it. They just really don't want to.
Cognitive dissonance.
It's cognitive dissonance. They do not want to try and process what's going on.
They'll just say, I don't want to get into it with you.
Which really means they don't want to get into it, period. It's not with you. It's not with somebody else. They don't want to think about it.
Within themselves.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to get into it because it makes no sense.
Right.
And then it completely destroys myself and my worldview and my whole idea of how this whole United States is. So,
yep.
Yeah.